Hey there, good afternoon. Sean here to present my organizational change for GameStop. So, a little bit of history on the company to start off with. The company was founded in the year 1984 in Dallas, Texas. And back then, they were a software retailer called Babbage's. Later, the company was bought by Barnes& and Noble in 1999. And that same year, they merged with another company called Funko. And then in the year 2000, Babbage's actually changed their name to GameStop, and that's when they became the GameStop that we know today. Um, and then in 2004, they separated from Barnes& and Noble. It was a quick little thing, only 5 years. But later in 2005, they acquired EB Games, which was like their biggest competition in a huge acquisition that was about $1.5 billion in 2005. So they became the world's largest retailer or video game retailer, according to them, when they made that acquisition. And then they've had a lot of other different innovations in the early to late 2010s. They created the concept of downloadable content for games, which basically adds more um, content, more levels, more maps, more characters to games that you already own. So that was created by GameStop, and then they also started their trade-in program, which was huge back then. And it allowed members to get a membership where they were entitled to better prices and things like that, and different rewards points towards new purchases. So that was very innovative at the time, and back in 2010, it was very innovative. But over the last 5 years or so, GameStop has seen a very steep decline in their stock prices. Um, According to Levine Weinberg in 2018, the overall stock prices of GameStop has decreased by about $35 a share since 2016. So that's a huge, huge decline. And the reason for that is because of three main problems, which was the downward trend of physical video games, the lack of innovation in the company, and poor public reception by the company. So back to the downward trend of physical video games. Physical video games have, the number of them has been declining. People are downloading games straight to their consoles. Even consoles are coming out with all digital versions where you can't even use disk drives. So that is really hurting retailers like GameStop. In this quote, it says, "In an era of when console manufacturers are offering digital versions of their new consoles, brick and mortar stores like GameStop have started to lose their relevance." And that was an article wrote by Mr. Magana in 2020. So it's a very recent article. So the business model is just struggling to stay relevant with the change in the industry. Second is their lack of innovation, and they were once very innovative, but recently they haven't really done anything to be innovative, and that's a big problem. And lastly is their poor public reception. A lot of people think they're going to get ripped off by trading in their games, that they're going to go in and get $2 for their video game, and then the store is going to turn around and sell it for $20. So people have just been more inclined to just hold on to their games rather than trade them in because they don't think they're going to get anything for them from GameStop. So that's another big problem, is just the poor public reception by people and fans of video games. So I recommended a Lewin model structural change, where they go through three phases essentially, which is unfreezing, where they create the motivation; changing, which is where they introduce new information in technology and procedures; and then refreezing, where they support and reinforce the change. So that's the Lewin model, and that's the one I recommend for GameStop. So to implement this model, the company's gonna have to, take part in these three changes. And in order to get these people motivated, all of the employees from upper management to lower to the people that work retail need to understand that the company is going through a tough time and that they need to make a change in order for the company to be able to succeed. So that's going to be their unfreezing stage. Now, the point where they're going to be doing the change, which was called the changing phase, That's where they need to get really innovative. And a couple of suggestions that I had were that they kind of overhaul their trade-in program. So with their trade-in program, they could offer something like a subscription, a new subscription base where people that have subscription could get offered like 3 rental games a month, basically like Blockbuster used to do, because they have so many games there. They could honestly just create a rental service, and you pay like $20 a month, and you can go in there, get any game you want, and you have to bring it back after a certain time. And if the customer didn't bring it back in a certain amount of time, then they'd be liable for the price of the game, which is essentially how Blockbuster worked. I think that would work really well for a game retail company, because people always want to try new games, and physical games being what they are, this would be a great opportunity for people to get out there and play games that they don't really have access to for cheaper than buying and downloading the whole game straight to their console, or buying the whole game straight from the retailer. So that's a good way to innovate. Another thing they can do is go back to the DLC thing that they did before. What they should do is they should sign up with certain developers of games to acquire the rights and exclusivity for DLC and even games themselves. If GameStop can get a hold of exclusivity on a certain gaming title, that's going to create a huge amount of demand for people to go in and buy from them. So if they're able to set up a way of exclusivity on getting downloadable content or even games themselves, that's going to create this demand that only can be met by going to GameStop. So that would be another way for them to kind of boost their marketing and their revenue, by acquiring exclusivity rights to certain gaming titles. And maybe it could not even be exclusivity. It could just be something where they have a 2-week early launch at GameStop. So people who really want that game on launch are going to go to GameStop to get it. And that would create a big drive for people to go there. And the other thing, like I mentioned, was the overhaul on the trade-in credit, where let's say, they could buy a full retail price game. They should receive like a pre-owned game for like $20 or so, just for going in and doing business with them. And then the minimum on that would just be a $20 trade-in value. So they need to bring in 3 games to trade in, right? And then they're going to put that towards a new title of $60. And then that would come with the free game. So essentially the company is selling the title for the full $60. They're getting 3 games, right? And then the company would then give them a credit for a $20 title. So that's a great way that the customer can walk out with 2 games when they come in and trading in 3. So they're only losing 1 total game, but they're getting a brand new game, and then they're getting a pre-owned game that they've never owned. Plus they're getting the $20 credit towards that $60 game. So they're only paying $40 out of pocket basically for a brand new game and for a $20 pre-owned game. It's a great value. That kind of program would be very incentivizing for people to go in. So that's my recommendations for GameStop. I believe that they follow those 3, where they do the changing and then they support those changes by doing the marketing. That'll be really successful for them. So it's very clear that GameStop needs to implement this and change fast, because by the track record of their company over the last few years, they're going down a slippery slope. So in order for them to return to the glory days of gaming, they'll need to make an innovative change to stay relevant in the video game industry. And that is my report on GameStop and their organizational change. Thank you for listening.